part of the problem here is that money laundering in Iran has been proven to be tied to their efforts to support international terrorism. And the unfortunate case here is what we're debating is whether or not any action that we take, remember, we were originally assured, yes, we can push back on issues like their ballistic missile program. We can push back on their support for terrorism or their abject destruction of human rights of the people inside Iran. We can put pressure on those fronts. We've somehow reached the point, despite the testimony of the administration, that we were going to be pushing back. We've reached the point where the administration feels that any steps we take to assert a position on these fronts is injurious to the relationship with Iran or some way undermines the JCPOA. Look, in terms of Iran, the entire country is designated by our Treasury Department as a jurisdiction of primary money laundering concern. And not just by our country, not just by our Treasury, but by the international system that looks at these financial systems. They've determined the same with respect to Iran. The Secretary of State, Kerry, and his colleagues in the administration are in the midst of a campaign to reassure foreign firms that Iran is open for business. All right, we can trade with Iran, but it's an additional step beyond that to say that Iran is going to have the right to access to U.S. dollars. Other administration officials, by the way, go so far as to say that Iranian economic growth is in our national security interest. Look, I don't think it's in our national security interest. And frankly, if people are going to trade with Iran, they can do it without the use of U.S. dollars. You know, it's a tough case to make in terms of this in some way being in our interest when you consider that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has been labeled what by the U.S. Treasury Department? The most powerful economic actor in the country is the IRGC, all right? And that's the same entity developing these ballistic missiles and supporting terror throughout the region. It's a terrorist IRGC by our own labeling here in the United States. That should be enough to put the brakes on the administration's plans to get Iran out from under restrictions that prohibit trade with Iran in dollars. You can trade, but you can't trade in dollars, okay? The pervasive influence of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps throughout Iran's economy means that extreme due diligence will be necessary to ensure that foreign companies and foreign banks are not complicit in Iran's terror finance or the range of other illicit financial activities in which Iranian entities regularly engage. And that's why this legislation protects the integrity of the U.S. dollar from Iranian illicit finance by codifying existing restrictions, clarifying restrictions on foreign financial institutions involved in dollarization, and again, links the termination of these measures to the end of Iranian support of terrorism. Easy enough for Iran to solve the problem. Just quit supporting terrorism. I urge all members to support this legislation.